Mr. Jean-Guy himself, the Gabriel, welcome.
Thank you so very much, Diana. And thank you, all of you, for finding the time to join. I know this is one of the most competitive cities in the world, and you carved out time for yourselves and also for your businesses to grow with, hopefully, knowledge, information, networking, but also influence. We're in a world of influencers, but I would like to see more people of influence, and especially well-fluencers. And you're doing just that. So thank you, all of you, for finding the time. As I said, we have three powerful ladies. Sue, thank you for joining us. You're the Spa and Wellness Director of Raffles Spa in Dubai. Before that, you were based in Hong Kong with Mandarin Oriental, and before that with Spa International as the business developer, business director. So thank you. And Spa Leader of the Year of 2024. And maybe tomorrow night we'll know if it's 2025 also. So thank you for coming. We have Amanda. Thank you also for joining. You are the senior director of Spa and Wellness for 4 seasons here in Dubai, but before you were in Hawaii. Aloha. You have been also the regional director for Marriott International, so well done you, and the GM of the iconic Red Door Spa by Elizabeth Arden in New York. I remember I had the chance to go there once, and apparently you had yoga with candles some evenings, so that was just fantastic. And thank you, Paulina, also for joining us, General Manager of the Clinique La Prairie here. You have also been working with the Burj Al Arab as the Spa and Wellness Director for Jumeirah. And you were also, until COVID, with Shah Wellness Clinic in Alicante. So thank you so much. And so many also positions in Mexico with, if I remember, 4 seasons. Grand Hyatt and also Rosewood Mayakoba with the boat taking you directly. I went there with Emmanuel Arroyo. Fantastic. So thank you for joining. We are going to be talking about bold leadership, because sometimes discussing with general managers and owners, you need to be bold to talk about numbers. So we will be talking, okay, so maybe if I speak like this, there's an echo. We will be speaking about competition sets, about dynamic pricing, ROI, which is on everybody's lips, or at least in every owner's and GM's heart. We will be talking talent, and also, hopefully, if we have time, life-work balance, which is really important, especially here, so competitive with people who are always pedal to metal, on, never off. Do we have a life? Okay, so this is something important. Competition set. I'll turn to you first, Sue. Because and we're very lucky to have the three of you, because Amanda, you are representing Jumeirah Beach, you are on the Palm, and you're downtown, okay? So, arriving from Hong Kong, what have you learned from the competition set before you implemented anything? Taking over an amazing spa with Cinq Mondes at Raffles, what have you seen? And then we'll move with the question.
Yes, it's on. Okay, so there was a little break, obviously, coming from Mandarin Oriental. I did go to Raffles in Jeddah to do the pre-opening, but we had a little bit of a delay, so came over here. Obviously, coming from Hong Kong and an iconic hotel, Mandarin Oriental, and there's also the Peninsula as well, you do have an element of you're riding on your reputation, and you have a loyal client base and following worldwide. So coming to Dubai, and I can see many leaders sitting in the audience here, Dubai is highly, highly competitive, but we shouldn't be scared of that. All of us have very individual offerings, and I said to you when you invited the three of us on this panel, because we know each other, obviously with Amanda being down on Jumeirah, myself on the Palm, Paulina downtown, we've got 3 very, very different and distinct markets. But for me, I don't know if there's anybody else on the Palm that I can see here. Okay. So you will obviously understand when I start talking about the comp set. Yeah, we have the comp set in Dubai as a city. But we have our own individual comp set on the Palm, and that is highly revenue driven. We have a distinct high and a distinct low season. I don't think Paulina maybe suffers from it as much as we do on the Palm. Low season can be long, going from June right through to September. And where rates, are driven with, I've got, for example, I've got One and Lonely, I've got W, I've got Atlantis, Waldorf Astoria, Kempinski is not a competition, but yes, so there's some great hotels. And last year, I remember, the rates were being driven down, and I won't say specifically by whom. And so you have to follow that. Now, us running our wellness centres, our spas, obviously we would normally, we're going to come on to dynamic pricing later on, but, our pricing, as much as you might realise it, is really related to the room revenue. Now, when you've got an ADR that's coming down to $750, $650 per night, we can normally base our market and our menus on maybe around 50%. Now, anything that's going to be more than that 50%, your guest is going to start questioning the value of going to the spa. And that's where you get into tricky territory, because we don't want to be driving down our rates to a point where you're thinking, is it really worth us actually doing the treatment? But this is how it happens on the Palm, and it's been very challenging. So I don't want to take up too much time from everybody else. So I'm going to hand over to Amanda.
Yes, and I agree with Sue. I mean, we are in Dubai here, we have such fierce competition, but I think it's you embrace it with being more creative and staying on your toes to maybe not necessarily, yes, we have to stay with our market in pricing strategies, but also adding value and being creative with the promotions that we're running. I think there's a place for all of us to have something unique and special, just based on our own location and our own property, that we can really just strive to find that, value proposition in adding something extra to our experience, regardless of all the competition around us.
Yes, I agree with her. In my case, I'm a different kind of business setup. So yes, I do have the spa part within my umbrella, but we try to focus more on our USP, that is the clinical and the medical expertise. Yet the well-being represents like 45 to 50% of the total revenue, but this year our main focus is to highlight our USP, the science part, and you need to embrace your concept, right? You don't need to lose the sight. I know that there's a lot of businesses that come up with a very clear concept, a very clear strategy, but they get desperate. So we need to learn that everything has a ramp up, okay? And we need to embrace the timeline that takes to make a product to reach that maturity and to give you the results based on your business proposition.
So obviously, before we move to dynamic pricing and dynamic availability, the competition is really high with over 2,000 hotels in the city. When you look at TripAdvisor, you have 2,260 choices as of, I think, yesterday or this morning. Not all in your category range, of course. But for you, Paulina, competition is not just with the hotels, it's also with the hundreds of clinics. And you did mention something like 5 new clinics opening almost every week. And it's not just the outside competition, it's also the internal competition, because you're located ideally now in an iconic building that represents an H with One and Only and Cyro. And they're also doing biohacking and longevity and recovery. So can you speak a little bit more about that before we move to dynamic pricing, please?
Yeah, indeed. So for me, to do my benchmarking was like more complex because obviously I need to consider who has the same business offer within Dubai, the same area, and so on. So it's very extent. But as Jan mentioned, I have one competitor in the same tower, that is Cyro, right? So how do we turn that into an opportunity? They are not DHA registered. So that means that part of his offer relies on me to provide the services. So that was an opportunity that obviously during the pre-opening stage we identified, and instead of seeing each other like a competitors, okay, let's collaborate each other, right? So we all know that not all the hotels are ready to pursue to be a medical facility license. In our case, we are medical and science-based, so that's what we get in agreement. And for all the medical services or things related more to the biohacking, minimum invasive, they are doing that through us with their own formulations because they have a team and advisors behind, like dictating what is the pulse and the way to go. But we are the one to provide the services for them. So you always need to see the opportunity on every challenge.
Thank you so much. Dynamic pricing and dynamic availability. But before we move on, question, because we will be... No. A little bit after, thank you. But there will be an interaction right here. Little teaser about tomorrow, I think 2 p.m. Anna Burstam will be here with us, with Yuki Kiyono from Aman and Janu, and we will have Cédric Betis also, who's working with the Future Foundation here in Dubai. And we will be talking about longevity, recovery, and lifestyle-driven hospitality. But before we move on, because you work a lot on longevity and recovery, who in this room has an offer related to longevity and recovery? Okay, of course you. Yes, W in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi. Anyone else? I see little hands. Come on, be proud, because I just wanted to see if your competition set is also in the room. So a little bit, not really sure. Maybe next week. Okay, thank you. The dynamic pricing and dynamic availability. It's not new. It's been around for almost a generation or more with aviation and with hospitality, the area where we are in. But not that many spas are using it. I know Susan Holbrook, now the global head of Marriott Worldwide, spoke about it in London last year very eloquently. And I know some of the brands are using it. You, out of one of many, have been implementing it, which is sometimes hard to explain to your guests, that if they come on a certain day, they'll pay a certain price for a procedure or a modality, and if they come on another day at another time, they'll pay another price for the same treatment. So how did you lead your team into it? How was the training, and how did you manage the feedbacks from the clients?
Yes, I think, like you mentioned, it's been happening in a lot of other industries. So for the spa to introduce this is something very new to the guest and the guest experience. So we did launch it at our property a few months back, and I think the training was key. We did extensive training with all of our spa team, of course, with our reception team first, but also with the whole hotel team, all the concierge, all the front office. Everybody needs to understand the expectation of our pricing. So I think that we took at least 3 months leading up to the actual launch to really role play and go through every possible scenario that could come up with a guest questioning the pricing, what were our solutions, what was in our toolkit to be able to answer back to that. And we really found a very seamless transition through them being able to describe it, through them being able to, of course, honor existing pricing. Like that was the big commitment to us. Like, well, if a guest really doesn't want to pay the new pricing, we'll allow them to pay the old pricing this visit. And that made a big difference, that we just empowered our teams. And now, yes, the flexibility of it, right? And I honestly, after 3 months, the guests have really just embraced it to understand it. It's happening in other industries. They're used to it with the hotel, and now they just book. They don't ask about what day they're booking, what time they're booking, what pricing is. So it's become more of just part of the natural process of the spa.
How long since you implemented it and it's rolling out?
We've had it in place for 3 months now.
Okay, so far, 90 days.
So yes.
Without giving us precise numbers, do you see a percentage uptick in the net operating income for you?
Yes, I mean, obviously, without taking a new menu and all new pricing, we've definitely seen like a 20% lift just in having the difference in pricing on weekends and afternoons. And I would say, obviously, for Four Seasons as a brand, this market's actually behind where we are in the U.S. market. They're doing it in quite a few spas over there globally. And they are seeing they've been obviously having it for years now, and they definitely see the uptick And you can manage it on a simple level, or you can manage it on a very sophisticated level based on your productivity, based on your demand. So you can do, weekend pricing is obviously the simplest way to start, but then you do your afternoon pricing, you do peak time pricing, you do it when holidays, you do it at events, when the hotel is booked. You really follow the patterns of the booking of the hotel. So the longer you do it, the more sophisticated you can, and you can also drive those prices even higher at certain peak times.
Before we move on to you, Sue, because I know you implemented dynamic pricing, but back in Hong Kong at the time with Mandarin Oriental, but not here, and you'll explain us why. Quick question in the room, again, interaction, and if you lifted your hand, this is a question for later, right? Okay, so you're just raising your hand. Because the question is for you, who is already using dynamic pricing in this room? 3 hands, 4 hands? Okay, 5 hands. My question before Sue, Amanda, back to you, is dynamic availability. Is it something you're also doing? Because dynamic pricing is changing the price of the modality on certain days and times. But some are also taking this to the next level, which is on certain days or times you don't have that treatment available because it's not enough high revenue for a very high peak season. So sometimes the menu shrinks and then you focus on your best sellers or your high yielders. Is it also something you do?
We have not taken it to that level yet, no, but it's something, again, like you can just continue to build on that sophistication of, we've done it sometimes between like a 60-minute versus a 90-minute services, based on we can only offer this right now, like don't offer the other option. This is what we have, but not to the level of taking out certain categories yet. But we want to get there one day.
Yeah, there's always another level to it. Excellent. Sue, dynamic pricing.
Yeah, when we had the conversation, I forgot to mention, last summer I did launch a summer menu, going back to what I was saying earlier with how
low season.
The prices were really driven down. So I did a completely separate menu. But similarly to Amanda's comment, was the loyal guests and your regular guests coming through. We did have some challenges with guests being a bit, disputing. Sorry, when we put the new menu back for the high season, obviously they'd got used to the low season prices and were loving it.
And they liked it.
Yes, exactly. And then trying to get them back to where you should be, that we had a few challenges. But that really comes down to, again, to reiterate Amanda's comment, is down to training, but also the conviction you have as a leader and making sure they know that you believe in this and making sure you get that across to the team. But something more important that I was going to come on to, Jean-Guy, was there's a really key person that you can work with within the hotel operation, and that is your director of revenue. Now, obviously, we're all used to our director of revenue sitting in the revenue meetings, and they're obviously dictating our rates in the hotel, and they're obviously leading our sales teams to do the sales drive. Now, if you work with your director of revenue and educate them on the spa and wellness arena, they will be more than happy, as I've worked with mine, to basically revenue manage your spa with you. Now, all of us as leaders, we think, we know what we're doing, and yes, we probably do. But sometimes, particularly when you've got a really challenging market such as Dubai, it does help just to have a second person to go and sit with and make sure you're doing the right thing. And I'm finding that is really something. We've just had a new director of revenue coming, and I'm just loving her. So I've said, I really want to revenue manage the spa with you. And we are going to put in a strategy now for the entire year where it'll fluctuate, and we might do stop sell on some treatments, etc., as we stop sell on certain room categories. And I think this is going to be something that will fundamentally really, really affect the overall P&L for the year.
Brilliant. I've heard, but maybe it's not true, you'll tell me, that there is kind of a price war in Dubai, especially with so many clinics, health, longevity, recovery, advanced aesthetics. So with the price war being there and revenue management, is it something also you do, or because of Clinique La Prairie's reputation, you stand firm your ground? How do you navigate this area?
Yeah, well, definitely we have a very clear philosophy that is we will never use the word discount or cheapest or anything of those words in our promotion or the way we advertise our services. It's right now, and as I mentioned before in our call, we are in the process to present all the and gather all the information for the chief financial officer from CLP, as they say, to have an entity that can also support you. And this guy has been asking me like, not for the well-being area, but more for the medical, like what is the availability fill rate that you have as of now for the medical, for the practitioners, for the machines, the seasonality, what is your average check, just to make sure that we don't shoot ourselves in the feet, by trying to do this dynamic pricing. He clearly tell me, Paulina, if you're not able to prove that your availability is above 75%, forget about the dynamic prices and focus on the strategy on how to drive more business on an organic way instead of discounting. Yes, as they say, it takes, once you are able to implement, because I had the opportunity to be in Willow Stream in Scottsdale years ago when they were doing this implementation, you have to educate their staff, but I think the hardest part is to educate their customer. I remember one of the strategies in Scottsdale was how they will make the difference between, on the weekends, especially after 3 p.m., they were charging 15% more, right? Than what you can get, 15%, 1.5. Than what they do from Monday to Thursday. And one of the things was from Monday to Thursday, you get the massage at a cheapest price, but you don't have access to the facilities. Correct? And then on the weekends, you have access to the facilities and then they have an add-on. So it was always trying to see what is the value about paying more than why you are discounting the price. Because then, especially for the luxury market, you lose credibility, right? When you have one product at this price, Monday to Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday different, it's hard for them to understand why are you doing this price difference. So by adding value and making the difference with a extra proposal for them, I think that's the right way to do it.
Thank you. And you are right in the way that you need the explanation and the training and the role plays so that the team is comfortable in explaining the perceived added value. Because on paper it may be an added value, but is it truly perceived as such? And this is when they flip and they understand. I'll stay with you for a second, Paulina, because you run operations that need equipment, high-tech equipment. You have CapEx. And then you realize that technology advances very fast, and then there's a new clinic with a new technology, and then you need to go back, because you just opened recently, and then you need to go back to the owner and say, well, if I can say we need this more now for this and this. How do you, again, bold leadership, how do you explain the value of this equipment, again, when you don't know how much it's going to actually generate? You know you need it, you know your guests need it. So how do you manage to have this money financial conversation about the return on investment for this new equipment?
And then, okay, that's a very good question because it's exactly my scenario right now. So the first one is obviously to ask the support of my medical practitioners, who are the ones who are more aware about the real return of investment, what is the potential of this machine, how many treatments can you perform per day, what are the resources that you need, do you need a doctor, can be done by a nurse, or is done by itself. You need to be ready for uncomfortable questions. It's very different, the mood in a meeting room when you're presenting to your GM than when you present to the stakeholders, right? The GM only focus on the short-term pam-pam and the stakeholders on a long-term. So you need to be able to come up and know your numbers inside out. You also, I think you gain credibility when you're able to present also what is the risk, right? I mean, because there's no perfect scenario. So we want to acquire this device. We want to invest this 500K to get 20 extra more in revenues. That's also the wording is very important. And also present, okay, there is a slightly chance that this might not go in this direction, but this is the plan that we have in case that this don't go that direction. So the more prepared you are, and I know because even my husband, they say that I'm a nerdy, but I really want to present, and I study before I'm going to present something. Be very brief on your slides and very graphic, okay? Don't write a letter. Graphic, numbers, to the point, risk, how you pretend to outcome those risks, and that's the way I'm trying to do it right now.
Because that's exactly the situation you're in right now. Okay. But we will not unveil the name of the products you're trying to bring in and the technology. This will be for another conversation another time. Who in this room is part of the executive committee of your hotel? Executive committee, a few hands. Yeah, that's leading to my question to you. What was the big jump for you at first not being part of the executive committee and trying to be bold with the vision, with the numbers you were trying to push, and being part of the executive committee, is it easier or harder now for you? And what can be the advice on how you speak to owners and GMs? When you have that vision, you need to go and have that budget validated.
Unfortunately, I actually didn't see any difference from being non-exec to ex-com, to be honest with you, Jean-Guy. Because in my past, I did a lot of resorts. If you look at my resume, it was not all on my LinkedIn. And I was generally reporting to the general manager. I've always been very straightforward, very confident, so I didn't see any sort of transition. All I will say is obviously being part of the executive committee, you are able to push forward things, I think, a little bit easier. You're sitting on a platform with a team of people where you're maybe listened to a little bit easier, possibly. But I'd say from my side, when it comes to the CapEx, I'm a little bit different to Paulina. Paulina is obviously trying to do replacements and upgrades already in only a year, bless you. From my side, I have actually, my plan and strategy has been to increase my room utilization. Now, I have a lot of rooms. I've got 23 rooms, plus I've got 6 hammam treatment spaces, so I've got 29 treatment rooms effectively. Do I need 29? No, I don't. So I really wanted to look at ways to maximize revenues and also increase that utilization. So my proposal and the plan that I've put forward is to actually implement some machinery that would be relevant to a new concept that is definitely more wellness focused.
Touchless?
Touchless, yes. So you don't...
Because we have Sami Garieni in the room, and one of the big promoters of this event and all the ones in the previous years, and London and so many others with touchless opportunities is at the back of the room. Sami? Yes. Everyone knows Sami. Thank you.
Yes, so we might speak later, Sami. So is to look at some rooms where I could actually have, yes, not requiring a therapist, basically. So touchless, something that's easy but revenue generating. So my obviously ROI, different again to Paulina, has really. You've really got to be thinking about the strategy now, because you're putting together something that you haven't done before. It's going to be completely new. And, when you're presenting to your GMs, MDs, your owners, you can't just go along with a wish list on your CapEx and think, oh, yes, well, I'd like to do A, B, C, D, E. It's really got to come with a strategy behind it. And as Paulina said, you've really got to be somebody that's good on PowerPoint, very good presentation, keep it succinct, keep it to the point, but really understand your ROI and really look at your comp set, see what they're doing, try and do something that might be a little bit more innovative, something a little bit different. You don't just want to follow the herd and do what everybody else is doing. However, I will also say, being in Dubai, obviously we have got everybody doing everything. So on an equal note, don't be scared to do something that somebody else is doing, because you might be able to do it better. And that will obviously come down to how that's implemented, the training, your team, etc. That's...
Thank you. Amanda, there's a bold leadership now with Michael Newcomb heading the way for 126, 28 spas around the world. Last time I checked, I could be wrong by a few numbers and openings.
Yeah, that's really close.
Yes. ROI, how do you lead these conversations with the different properties you were with in Hawaii, now in Dubai? How do you get the message across with owners and GMs?
Yes, I think both of these ladies touched on it a little bit, but you really have to walk into these meetings understanding that your audience is different and really understand who your audience is. We speak spa and we speak spa world so well, right? But they don't necessarily speak spa the same way that we do, right? So like they were talking about with being concise, having good presentations, PowerPoints. Again, it's tailoring the message to the audience, right? I think also the harder part is when you don't actually always have a financial return, when you can't be left behind by not having certain elements in your spa. So if it's talking about upgrades, enhancements, things you may need in your facilities that may not drive a direct revenue number, that I think is also a challenge to really explain the whole strategy behind it, and maybe go back to your comp sets and show what everyone else is doing, and that we would be left behind by not having some of those options. So I think you can't always rely just on the financial. You have to create the dream, create the vision, but again, tailor your message to the audience that you have, and try to understand that their spa speak is different than ours.
Absolutely. I'd like to give you also an insight that was that's from another industry. I met different managers at L'Oréal, and they told me that every 3 years they make sure that a product manager at L'Oréal from the different brands always moves on to another brand. They do 3 years and then they move on. And based on their results, they move on to a bigger brand, a better position, or lower. But they always ask them to spend 16% of the time, 16% of their time, not focusing on numbers, not focusing on products, but focusing on people, so that they network within the company. They understand who's doing what. They want everyone to create a web, a network of connections, so that the moment when they need to really speak about something that will be maybe a tough conversation to have, they know each other. Not because of a business card and the fast trajectory of each other's career, but because they have already had a drink or a meal together, and they will always make sure in their reviews at the end of the year to see who have you networked with, how much time have you dedicated, and they will try to see how influential you have become. So maybe this is also useful when you say, meet your revenue manager, make a friend out of that person, and see how that person can help you manage your revenue also. It's really about the partnerships. And when we look at the United Nations and the 17 SDGs, the 17th is about partnerships and building synergies. So it's really, really important that you do not face this alone, that you see who can help you as a resource. Now let's focus on leadership, because how many of you in the room are spa managers? How many of you think of yourselves as spa leaders, not managing just inventory, time slots, people, but leaders? This is really what it's about. Especially, as we said, in such a competitive place here as Dubai, not just competing for clients, not just competing for exposure, but also competing for talents, attracting them, retaining them. Amanda, I see you do this. In body language. I know it's tough, and I know how much a difference 500 dirhams at the end of the month can make for some people who will need to send half of that money back to the village and home in Bali, in Indonesia, Thailand. So how, and because you have the mic, let's stay with you. How do you make sure that the talents you have in-house, and I have to say, I was treated magnificently with a fantastic signature massage by Anne, one of your therapists coming from Kenya. I really wanted to see Four Seasons Serengeti, and the Serengeti came to me yesterday in Dubai. So that was fantastic. How do you attract and retain those people? And then we'll ask the other panelists.
Yeah, I think the retention is the key, and we have to really listen more than we speak to our staff and our team, and understand what's motivating them. I think that we can do different, even now, besides just cultural differences, we can also look at generational differences and what is motivating them these days, and stay competitive with that. Like we were talking about scheduling, and if they're working 6 days or 5 days, and what can we offer them, right? It's not just related to their paycheck. Of course, that's very, very important to most of them, but it's not who's paying the highest commission or the highest salaries, but it's also the entire package, right? So we need to think about all these different elements. And I think one of the elements for Four Seasons that I'm very proud of is our focus on future development and education for our teams. So we've developed a global program for manager and training. So we're trying to build our bench from within. So so when we are suddenly, without an assistant manager, we have, supervisors ready to go into those roles. So our manager and training program is quite developed, again, across the globe. As to all the different metrics that they learn and that they go through for at least a period of a year before they could even consider moving on. But I think that's another value that they see is that we will train them and grow them. And again, it only helps us that we have a bench that we've built then when we have opportunities.
Thank you. Sue, talent, Raffles.
Yeah, a few things actually. I came into my property a year and a half ago, just almost now, and I like to run a very democratic approach to spa leadership. So I really like to involve my team in absolutely everything, so they feel that they're part of the decision-making process, etc. And the important thing when I came in, I sat down with each and every one of them to find out where we were at, how they were, where they were going, the direction, etc. And I actually gave all of my team the choice of working 6 days or 5 days. And obviously, if they work 5 days, they work longer hours. If they work 6 days, they work shorter hours. And that has been one of my key to success. Is I only actually lost 2 people last year. I had the lowest turnover in our whole hotel. And it's not necessarily down to simply the remuneration, although when I did come in, I did enhance their commissions, which is also a difficult one to justify with your...
But it's smart. Then they love you.
Yeah.
You just arrive, and instead of saying, I want you to do more for the same price, you say, I'll give you a bump.
Well, yeah, but that comes from your director of finance. Why should we pay them more commission when they're already paid to do the job? So that is another ROI in itself. But it's worked, and we have an incredible team. I feel very, very lucky. I mean, you always touch wood, you just never know. But our teams, sorry to interrupt you.
With 10 nationalities.
Yes. Yeah, and we have a very blended team. Everybody gets along. Everybody's treated as an equal. Everyone has a voice. The most important thing that I do, I have a spa manager, I have a spa supervisor, I have a head therapist, but I personally sit down with each and every one every single month. I give them my time. They can come in, we sit down. It's not my agenda. They can talk about anything they want to talk about. And most of the time we talk about their personal lives, their family, and then we'll touch on obviously their development. And I make sure that everyone has a clear path. That will either be in the spa, or we actually look at doing cross-exposure opportunities into other departments. I will encourage, obviously, if they want to move to another property. I'm very lucky with our company, like your company. They can move to other properties, and we can assist in their transfer, visa permitting. I do feel we spend a lot of time in making sure that they are very well taken care of and listened to, which is something you said, Amanda. And I think you have a very good program on your manager development program. And it's good, with all of us sitting here, we've all got many years behind us. And I think there's nothing better than when you get to sort of our years of experience of seeing those youngsters grow and develop and become the next future spa managers, spa directors. And it's our job to identify that talent and nurture it, because we have an incredible industry that we're lucky to work in. We've got so much growth that's going to be happening in our industry. And I do feel it's part of our duty to really harness that talent and develop it. And, I personally am working with 2 people, mentoring them right now, and I'm so excited for their future, and that, just gives me joy, and I feel like and that's probably the best part of my job, is helping others.
Well done. Paulina, talent, attracting talent, maybe sometimes from Central Europe with amazing hands for advanced aesthetics, almost medical grade services, nurses grade services, and Central Europe has amazing talents, but also finding them here for your opening. How are you managing this, sometimes with the culture aspect of them feeling homesick and then wanting to leave when there is so much opportunity? How do you manage that one? An energy level, and then we'll open for your questions in the audience for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay, so definitely one of the biggest lessons I have with this opening, it was to find someone who has already experienced working in the GCC region. I think all of us, when we move for the first time to this region, it's a cultural shock in many ways. I come from Mexico, so I'm used to work 6 days a week, 48 hours per week. But after being in Spain, enjoying life 40 hours per week, 2 days off and whatever, for me it was like, when I moved to Saudi. So you need to really make sure that the people that you will bring on board is really ready, right, to cope with it. My experience now, if I have to hire someone who doesn't have experience in the GCC countries, I will try to minimize the percentage of people without experience in this region to reduce the number of turnover. That's very important. I think 50% of the success of staff retention will come from the right recruitment. And then the other 50% is in your hands through education, through promotion, be a leader who makes decisions. I think one of the things that has worked for me in my career, I am a leader who takes a decision, who doesn't hesitate, because I think nothing kills more the moral of a team than when they see a leader that doesn't make any decision just to be on the safe spot.
I have asked each of our panelists to close with a gift that I ask them to give to you as an advice, something very personal, something very deeply rooted. So we will have 1 minute for all of you when it's almost 3:07. But we have about 10 minutes. So is there any question? Yes. You raised your hand from the beginning, so you definitely have the first question. Can you say who you are and where you work? Thank you.
My name is Mayasa. I've been in this industry for the past 25 years here in UAE. I'm a managing partner for Emaar Spa. It's a big destination spa in Al Qawain. We're honored to have all the three of you. I would like to hear from you some questions. Actually, it's not a question. What are the trends you are seeing here? You all hold very important positions in downtown and destination areas in Dubai. So, what are the trends now clients want? Are they looking for more face, body? Are they price-oriented? Are they looking for relaxation? What do you feel actually the clients want in today's world? Because I feel here in UAE, the trends change very quickly, more quickly than other parts of the world. And people are trending more to go to clinics rather than spa, only mostly spa industry for relaxation. Your clients are different. They're mostly tourists. So what are you feeling? What are they looking for? Please, I'd like to hear their answer.
Thank you. So one word, one trend. For you, Amanda, you have the mic. Then Sue and you, Paulina.
I think for us, I was going to actually say that as much as we have to stay relevant with some trendy items, that we need to do what our guests want, and that's massage. We need to do it really well. And so I say that we stay on top of what we can offer as far as the best in our facilities and the best in our therapists and the best in their training and the products that we use, but do the massage really well.
Well done. Sue?
Well, I'm just going to reiterate what Amanda's just said. Because we're dealing with mostly tourists, I'm doing 85% massage. And again, it comes down to a great therapist, great hands, great energy, connection, and delivering the best possible.
So that's interesting before Paulina answers, because in just 2 weeks, we're going to have another World Spine Wellness Convention in London. And the first panel is going to address this topic, wellness versus indulgence. We call it indulgence. We talk a lot about wellness and touchless treatments and advanced aesthetics and biohacking, and we will be discussing this with Anna and other panelists tomorrow. But the bread and butter of what we do, especially in spas, in hotels and resorts, it's massage and facials. So we will see the numbers, and we will ask, and I'll challenge John P. Rees, who has been working for Marriott in this area for quite a few years. who is now the Senior Vice President for Hard Rock Hotels in the world. And also, we will have a professional with over 30 spas in the UK, and they all say bread and butter massage. Over the trends, touch. And they're not talking about trends, they're talking about the drivers, the revenue generating drivers, not really the trends. They have lots of trends that people talk about. So they come, they see, they're in the paper, in the media. But what drives the revenue? Massage. Paulina?
I will say that what Dr. Peter Attia calls medicine 3.0, that is prevention, and they're really looking for a life change experience or interventions. In my case, I was working as a clinic, right? So we do have most of our members, they have a specific health requirements, and they're with us because they're looking for a change.
May I take this to another level? Is it prevention? Or is it almost predictive? Because I know that with DNA testing, you can see what's coming ahead years before, and you can already have an impact in amending your lifestyle for it. Is it also something you do? I've seen it with Chenot and Clinique La Prairie also in Montreux.
So right now we move beyond the genetics. There's something called the omics, right? The omics is your genetics, your microbiome, your epigenetics that plays a key role is what it will turn on or off, what is in your genes. And there's other 6 markers more. So right now what we're looking for is to read between the lines. Obviously, we do medical assessments, but it's very different if I do a hormonal test and I take my results with a GP. They will say everything is fine. It says nothing low, nothing high. But if I take the same results with an endocrinologist, he will read between the lines. So it's about learning what are the markers that will really impact, read before that marker goes up or down, and that's what we are specialized on, and that's what people is looking for.
And Anna, I believe you'll touch on this tomorrow. You have amazing slides, so, little teaser, make sure you attend, because I've seen Anna's slide. I know Anna. I know with or without slides, she'll just blow you away, but the slides are just remarkable, so no pressure. A question. So, lady, gentlemen, back to you.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Mert. I own a spa chain in Malta. I would like to double-click into the dynamic pricing. I think that's a really fascinating concept. I have 3-part questions. So first one is, what is the tech stack that you have in place that makes this happen? So I presume that you have limited printed collateral like menus, but I was also wondering, do you have like a website with the menu or pricing on your website? How does that vary? Again, what's the tech stack powering this? Second is operations. Who are the peoples behind it? So the pricing decisions, is that done truly dynamically by machine learning, or is that done sort of by people putting in higher incremental 10% on the weekends, that type of like rigid structures? And then the last part is, what's the impact on the consumer? Especially as it pertains to the retention part. I know you touched on the initial reaction, but how does that impact retention? I know it's been 3 months, so maybe you don't have too much data on this, but I'm curious, any empirical feedback?
So to answer the first part of your question, we have an amazing computer system for our spa, Book for Time, that is built to do the dynamic yield pricing concept. So we can set different parameters within that. So yes, you can manually, like you mentioned, manually go in and say, I want to increase my weekend pricing by 10%. But you can also do lots of other fancier things, right? So you can tell it that if you're 80% booked for the day, right? Like your productivity is above 80%, then take my prices up. And I can say, take my prices up by 100 dirhams, take my prices up by 20%. So I can play with it, and the computer will know. So maybe on Monday morning it was lower, but then it went up to a higher price because my productivity was higher. So luckily we have a whole fancy computer system and a revenue department that we tap into to help us kind of build the strategies that work for us. And as far as menus and like online web menus and things like that, we have all of our prices listed as a starting at. So everything just says starting at this price. So we have a base price. That's our base price. So we're never really discounting prices. We're usually just taking prices up during peak periods. Again, as we talked, I don't have a lot of data on the retention of our guests, but it impacts more of our members. We have a huge membership population and regular guests, but we've also grandfathered some of them into their base pricing, right, regardless of when they come. But all of our other guests are really not really concerned about when they're coming in. They understand, oh, this is a peak period, I'm getting peak pricing, just like a car rental, just like a airline flight, right? Like I'm booking on Saturday during prime hours and I'm gonna pay a little bit higher.
We're going to extend just a little bit, a couple of minutes. Tayana said we will not end at 3:10 but 3:12, and I need one more minute for each of you. So before we give you the last question, if it's okay, and of course you can always go to the VIP lounge and you can speak with Amanda, with Sue, and with Paulina. But one comment on this. Little spoiler alert, World Spine Wellness Convention London on the 3rd of March, around 11 a.m. We will talk a lot about dynamic pricing with AI, with Book for Time, and we have the vice president for Agilicis who purchased Book for Time, and they will be presenting an AI-powered receptionist assistant, voice generated. You call the spa, and a female voice, which is really well done, a little bit metallic, but really well done, will have a conversation with you and ask you what you want, what kind of treatment, what kind of day, what kind of time. A real conversation. For the demonstration, the person will go off track and the AI will bring the person back to closing as soon as possible. Within 3 minutes, the deep tissue is set on a date, no change. To another date, do you have another time? Yes, thank you. It's amazing. So just relating to what Book for Time, dynamic pricing can do, and AI coming into the mix, make sure that your receptionists are amazing conversationalists, is that okay? Having great conversations so that they can focus on the human-to-human interaction and have meaningful conversations so that people are seen as people, not as clients, because AI is going to take care of that. Last question, and then we have the gifts.
Hello, my name is Nadia. I work for Hilton. My question is again pricing also. How do you find, how competitive is Dubai with the pricing? Because lately clients are saying, tourists coming, Dubai become very expensive. I do my treatment somewhere else. So they stay away from the spa.
Just to clarify, when you say very expensive, what would be the price point for perceived very expensive for you at Hilton?
They feel the massage is getting 500, yeah? 60 minutes.
So do you feel it's very expensive and 500 dirhams, 60 minutes considered very expensive? Or for you it's like, okay, entry level, Raffles?
I was just going to say, you've really got to stay on top of your market. So I look at my comp set. I've set up a whole spreadsheet, automatically calculates. I've just got to input, and it will give me the price per minute. So I will compare that all of the time. I mean, the comp set is quite large here. So look at what you consider to be your comp set and make sure you're in line with that, and then you're well justified. Obviously, you're not going to compete with the basic day spas because they're going to be much cheaper. You can get a massage here for 150 dirhams, but stick by your guns. If you're in a luxury hotel and you've got a beautiful spa, you can justify it, but you need to be convinced with that with what you're doing. So your team obviously also feel convinced with what they're selling to our guests.
And I think that we also need to embrace, that not everybody is our target market. So once we learn to identify that, then we don't need to break our heads. It's like, my product maybe is not for you, and let's direct your focus on other in your niche market.
Amanda?
Yes, I think it's just really important that you stay on top of your comp set, but I think that the market here is really fierce, but you got to keep doing your own thing and again, create that value so your guests will come to you and be loyal to you, regardless of your pricing.
So I agree. Some people are very price sensitive. There is an elasticity, and beyond that point, they will not come, or they will say it's not worth the value, the perceived value is not. For the past 23 years, I have been a consultant and trainer creating signature experiences for some of the Four Seasons, Waldorf Astoria, some of the Hilton moving into Conrad in Bora Bora. There's a moment when you need to say, who do I really want to attract? If it's just we're a spa, we're open, and anybody, any physical body can lie on a table and we will be happy to service them, this is not your client. You need to target. And especially, I'll try to be a little bit provocative. I'm French, so maybe sometimes we're arrogant, and I'll be on this occasion. If you're in a very competitive market, like we are in Paris, like they are in London, maybe it's even stronger and intense in Dubai, be a market maker, not a market taker. There will always be an entertainer to reduce prices at an amazing place, on a slow day, on a low season. Try to have in your menu, the way you engineer it, there's always, and I learned this from Anna a few years ago when we were somewhere in Budapest or in Central Europe, 80% of the menu is generating less than 10% of what you're doing. So what are you carrying as far as treatments requiring different products that are sitting idle in your back of house? What can you focus on that will absolutely generate? And then think of what you would like to offer and think with your team on how to create something signature that will blow everybody's mind. And that doesn't come at the level, it comes higher. And this becomes an aspiring massage. Montage in the US is having $500 facials, and they're solid booked. So up to you to think of where do you fit and where would you like to take the market on certain occasions with gift certificates and things like this. Thank you very much. Last word. It's not about concluding, it's about giving a gift. Amanda, you have the mic, and then you'll pass it on to Sue.
Yes.
What would be your gift today?
Well, mine relates exactly to what you were saying. Don't compare yourself to others, whether it be in your spa operations or in your own career or in your own life, right? Find your own rhythm, find your own pace, and keep moving forward in that direction, right? And we talked a little bit on our panel leading up to this about work-life balance, and maybe we won't be able to find balance at every day, but find the moment in every day that you can restore and renew yourself.
Actually, I think you should just enhance on that, because we were talking recently. If you don't mind me just digressing slightly, we were just saying we had a conversation with Jean-Guy, and all of us were talking about burnout. And you know, as spa leaders, here we are in an industry that is wellness, and yet quite often, you know, we forget ourselves. And I think it's the most important thing is to remember yourself. So coming on to my gift, it might be a little bit controversial for some of you. I wanted to talk about the word family, and just to say I feel that the word family has been so overused in the corporate world. And at the end of the day, you know, at work, we're not a family. We're running a business. Our teams have a mother and a father, and what they're looking to us for is a strong leader. And they want somebody that is going to get them out of the murky waters when needed, someone that's not going to break down and give up, someone that's not going to fall at any hurdle, and someone that's always present. And also someone that's going to listen to them and make them heard and obviously have their back. You know, sometimes we can have a bad day, but you've always got to have your smile. We've always got to come to work positive, driven, looking at the future. And that comes to my next point, is about always having a strategy. Every year, you know, I will make sure that I've got a plan in place that is in writing, that is in a beautiful presentation, and it might change throughout the year depending on, you know, the fluctuations and what's happening. But have a strategy and have a vision, and make sure you share that with your team so the team know the road that you're all going down. Because so many leaders I see, they have these great ideas and they you know, all these creative visions and everything, but then they don't talk to anyone except their boss. So their team don't actually know, where they're actually headed. Now, when you share everything with your team and spend your time to really, really enhance on describing the vision and get them excited about it, you'll get their buy-in. And that makes the journey so much easier and achieving that success more likely. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
As I said, don't be afraid to make decisions. Embrace that you will make mistakes. Leave ego on a side because that will make you more easy to cope if you fail. All right? Make sure that you learn something new every year, and don't let your education rely on if a company wants to pay for you a training or enroll you in something new. Your preparation is in your hands, and it's the best investment that you will do.
Thank you. Last word also, my gift to you is be bold. Don't just be managers, leaders, be bold leaders. It's about wellness, and I believe, wellness for all. Yes, wellness for your guests, for your members, and you will always strive to be on top of that edge, that line that keeps on moving with touchless or fully touched human interactions. But please do not forget the team and wellness for the team and wellness for the local community where the teams comes from. Wellness for all, not wellness for all those who can pay, wellness for all. So with this, I don't feel our profession turned industry that has grown exponentially. I think we need to grow up as a profession, not just as an industry. And we don't need a facelift, we need a faith lift in what we can deliver and deliver to the team so that they can also be part of the equation. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for having carved the time to come here. I know you're busy, very busy, but you did come. Thank you.